right. We are live with another amazing book creator webinar. And I am joined by Ijeoma Johnson from Newton County, Georgia. She is a tech. Hi, it's great to have you. It's so wonderful. We are both at the end of a busy day and we're just chatting about what that means for our minds and our workflows. And it's a lot, and so thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here and taking the time out of whatever time it is for you. And if you're rewatching the webinar, thank you for re-engaging and being present, and being here to hear about some amazing research and best practices from Ms. Johnson about graphic organizers. So this kind of all started last year around ISTE. We were chatting, we got to know each other, and then we exchanged a few emails, and you started talking about another proposal for ISTE and research behind graphic organizers. And I said, we've got to get you on to get a recording and to get it out, to really capture this. So I'm so honored and so happy that you said yes and that you're here. It's an absolute privilege. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you do and then get right into it.
Sounds good. Hello, everybody. I see you got friends from all over the world. Good morning or good evening, whatever time it is. My name is Ijeoma Johnson, and I am the instructional technology coordinator here in Newton County, which is about 30 miles away from Atlanta, Georgia, if you're familiar with Georgia. And I am a part of a dynamic team that is charged with leading instructional technology integration efforts for our district. And so what that means, that's a fancy way of saying, is we help teachers integrate technology with best practices. And so our team has a mission of providing engagement, exposure, and experiences for students with both literacy and technology. So super excited to be able to share some stuff with everyone today. We're going to learn a little bit about what research says about utilizing various forms of technology. And David, the reason why I thought this was important to share is because as teachers, we get really excited about the shiny new tools, but it's really important to understand that everything we do for students has to have an underpinning with research, right? And so although I absolutely love Book Creator, I'm like a #1 fan. I tell John I have to be the #1 user. I have to be it. I'm the biggest cheerleader, right? But it's bigger than that. We got to make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of all learners. And so hopefully you learned something cool today. I'll go ahead and share my screen so you can see.
And while Ijeoma is sitting up, I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. If you're here live with us. If you're rewatching, feel free to add a comment or email me at dhotler@bookcreator.com. That's my first initial last name. And are you ready to roll?
Hey, I'm waiting on whatever you give me the cue. I'm there.
All right. So I'll be hanging out in the chat. And if you need me, I'll pop in. But otherwise, the show is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So today we're talking about constructing knowledge, elevating learning with book creators, graphic organizers. So I'm going to take you guys through a quick little trip. Today we're going to talk about knowledge construction and multimodality. And so those two terms may be familiar to you and they may be new, but the idea is about learning what knowledge construction is and what multimodality affords us, and how Book Creator can put those two things together for an amazing experience for our students. So really briefly, just in case you are unfamiliar, just a couple of tidbits. Knowledge construction is how students are able to connect new knowledge concepts with what they already know. So if you are an educator, here in the States, we refer to building background knowledge. And so knowledge construction means the things I already know, piecing it together with new knowledge, okay? And the effects of graphic organizers, this was a study by Quan and some of his friends. They talked about how online discussions using graphic organizers helps both instructors helped provide instructors and students with feedback. It was all about feedback, which is a great avenue with graphic organizers. Okay. Here in Newton County, we've done some work. Our teachers have done some work and learned about Marzano's high-yielding instructional strategies. So what I did was I pulled out some strategies that yield some of the highest percentile gains for students. So identifying similarities and differences, summarizing and note-taking, non-linguistic representations. And then I also showed you what those percentile gains would be for students and also how it could look in the classroom. So that last column, you guys hopefully can see things like T-charts, Venn diagrams, what else do we have? Concept maps and different charts are great ways for students to demonstrate their understanding of both new information and as they acquire new knowledge, and then they connect it to things they already know. And so I'm a visual person, and so these are some of the things that when you say graphic organizers, what you could be talking about. And they have different names. So sometimes you might hear a Venn diagram, depending on where you are. And I know we have people joining us from all over the world. They may be called a different thing. These are some visuals of those different types of graphic organizers. And the cool thing is there are examples of these graphic organizers within Book Creator. Okay, so remember, we're talking about Book Creator, which I absolutely love, but it's important to know that everything, when integrating technology, it's important to make sure we're using best practices for students, okay? And so another study that I thought would be good to pull out for you all is this one on the left, where graphic organizers were used across different content areas to facilitate new learning experiences, and the fact that graphic organizers can be used to scaffold. So what does that mean? To chunk learning, to break it up into smaller parts for students, great visual representations so that students are able to follow, whether it's a process, helping step by step. And so graphic organizers can help students enhance their comprehension. Graphic organizers are also a great tool to help with critical thinking, problem solving, all by organizing things in a visual way. So instead of just having all of the information on a page, maybe a running list, graphic organizers are able to compartmentalize those things in a nice, clean, coherent, and structured manner, okay? So let's keep going, and then we're going to jump into the tool because I want to share some great things. So we talked about knowledge construction and how graphic organizers help with that, helping to develop new knowledge. There's another level to this. So when we talk about multimodal pedagogy, multimodal means multi, meaning many, right? So different ways to include media into the learning experience. So through using Book Creator launched amazing templates for graphic organizers recently. And in that, the team, when they created this, I don't know that they even understood the goal that they struck by enabling students the ability to embed various forms of media and to be able to interact with those media. You're able to step up the learning process, okay? And so again, throughout hopefully you're seeing the consistent backing of research throughout my presentation, but McKee et al. Talked about the fact that children's acquisition in reading and writing was able to be enhanced through multimodal pedagogy. And so they combined that pedagogy, and they were able to communicate their understanding of various concepts, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a pause, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in Book Creator, okay? So I'll take a break. So I'm in edit mode in my book. And what I want to show you guys is how we can pull in what this awesome dynamic research says about integrating graphic organizers into Book Creator. So I am going to click here and I'm going to have a blank page. So the first thing you have to do if you have, there are a myriad of graphic organizers enabled in Book Creator, and they vary based on your subscription. So I'm going to go to my teacher dashboard first of all, and across the top, I'm going to click apps. When I click apps, as you can see, I have different apps turned on. The new one is graphic organizers, okay? If you notice, mine says enabled for all libraries. So I am ready to go. If you do not have it turned on for your libraries, if you click that little button, and then this button will be gold. You click that, I add it to all my libraries, and then I say done. Okay, so that's going to give you the options to utilize graphic organizers in your books. So I'm going to jump back into my books so that I can show you that. So we're on a blank page, and whenever you want to add something to your page, you're going to click this gold button in the top right-hand corner, and then you're going to click more, and this is how you get access to your graphic organizers. So when you click graphic organizers, here is where you unlock some greatness, okay? So along the left-hand side, they are broken down into different categories, or you can peruse, line by line. Look over with me to the left, or to the right, excuse me. Do you notice how like this template has a little crown and it says premium? So these graphic organizers are based on subscription. So depending on what your subscription is will depend on what you have access to. But the great thing is that they're, regardless of your subscription, you still have access to graphic organizers. So I'm going to look over here on the left. And I remember we were, from the presentation that I just showed you guys, we looked at comparing and contrasting and Venn diagrams, okay? So I want to pull a graphic organizer. Let's just say I want my students to compare and contrast a different concept, a certain concept. So I can look over here, and I actually think I want to talk about facts and opinions. I like this one. Y'all see that? So when I click it, I can preview it. Book Creator did an amazing job to kind of give us a brief summary of what this graphic organizer can be used from. And then within this preview window, I can see more templates that are similar to this one. If I love it, I click the gold button to add it to my book, and it pops it in the page. The great thing about the graphic organizer, regardless of what type of book you're looking at, it conforms to that shape of book, okay? So remember back in the research, we talked about multimodality, and that we're talking about multimodal, so various modes. So in this template, I can add text. So I can give a fact or an opinion, and you see how I can slide these over. So I can type my fact. So if I just here, I can type a fact that, what would be a fact? Okay, the capital of Georgia is Atlanta. That is a fact, okay? Now over here on the opinion side, I can give an opinion. I could also come here. So this is text. That's one mode that I could use. But I could also come to the plus sign. Come to the plus sign here and add a video or image. Let's start with images. I can add an image. And I could search for, let's see what's under Atlanta. Okay, they got it right. There's our skyline. So I can add Atlanta here. It's going to take a minute, but I can drag that over and keep working while that populates. Ooh, that's big, so I can resize that. So a picture is one form of media that I could add, but I could also add under the plus sign, I could add camera. Now, because I am presenting right now using my Zoom camera, this is going to get a little wonky, so I won't click here. But students can record information. And so what research says about multimodal pedagogy is that the more ways and the more opportunities that students have to express or share their understanding of concepts, the more concrete and the more solid you can make that. So not only can I write about a concept, I can record myself discussing a concept. I can add an image that relates to that concept. If you have a student that may not feel as comfortable with sharing their face, maybe being on camera, then this option here to just record them auditory, their audio, their voice, you could use that as well. And so this takes us through the various opportunities that students have to showcase their learning, which is great. Well, let's just say I've already developed or created something, a document about what we have here in this topic. I can add other modes. I could add a document. If I wanted to add a document from my Google Drive, I could add also, let's just say I wanted to show where Georgia was. I could add a map of Atlanta. So I could add my map. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. So I could add that because that shows Atlanta on the map and shrink that down. So I'm able to add all the things that show and demonstrate that I understand either where Atlanta is or facts about Atlanta. I'm just using that as an example, but it could go across all content areas, right? And so students have the opportunity to kind of own their learning and share with their teacher and with their friends, because the great thing about Book Creator is the way to be able to share. Students are able to share things across the internet. They can share with their friends in Croatia. They can share with their family that are here with them different things. So great ways to add levels to the learning process. So I'm going to stop I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see everybody and see if we have any questions populating. David, do we have any questions so far?
I haven't seen any come in, but I
talk to me.
I really, can I jump in? Because
yes,
I'm really
please.
intrigued by something that you just said. So you were talking about how providing opportunities and asking students to come back to us in these multimodal domains builds up this like base of understanding better for students. I'm wondering, are there like certain modes that are better than others? You know, if I'm doing literacy, because I know there's always like the reading, the writing, the speaking, the listening. Is it always one or the other? What, like, how do you measure that? When do you say we should push in with more video here, or much more speech?
Right. So the thing that is important to know, right, and remember is that no one person learns the same, right? And so the thing that is really awesome about Book Creator is it enables teachers to meet their students where they are. So I am an audio learner. Like I learn best hearing things. And so a teacher can record herself giving, and we've had teachers use their Book Creators to give instructions to students, right? So the students can hear, the teacher just gave them, but they have it to where they have audio bites or audio clips of their teacher either giving instructions or even the content. So maybe David needs to be able to hear me explain something after I already explained it. Think about the power that you are unlocking by enabling him to hear his teacher at any point in time, right? Because I have that book there. video features seeing. Some people need to see their teacher or they need to see the content. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, David, it really depends on the learner. Everyone learns differently.
Sure. I guess we always think about, and I like that you mentioned the idea that it kind of works both ways in the instruction piece too, because we're always thinking about differentiation, right? It's great to provide written and audio instructions, especially what you said recorded that I can go back and re-listen to. I guess it makes total sense when you say it out loud, like, yes, of course, if you have written and audio instructions that match, and I'm listening and reading, or I've read them and I listened again, of course, that's going to reinforce the instruction piece. And then thinking about having them give it back to me in those multiple domains, not just choose one, but no, I want all three, is also a really interesting comment. We've got a couple questions.
Okay, so
can only the teacher choose the graphic organizer? So that's a more technical question. Or can the students decide what organizer to use sometimes? So I think there's a bit of a technical piece there, but then also I think a bigger piece, but I'll let you.
So when you enable the graphic organizers app to a library, that essentially is enabling it for the students that are a part of that library. So depending on what the means by which you were trying to, what the assignment is or what that book's purpose is, you can kind of decide how students, what they will be able to bring into the book, if that makes sense. So if I enable that feature, then students are able to use it. But it's a great tool. We have in our district, we have teachers using Book Creator as their class notebook. So students, instead, like how they take notes in class, the teacher can share pages to their book, to the students' books. And so in that aspect, if a student needed a graphic organizer for themselves, if that feature was turned on, then they would be able to create a page in their notebook, just like they would if they had a paper notebook, right? And I need a T-chart.
Yeah.
So I can pull in the T-chart into my book to be able to do with it what I need to.
I like that. Do you often find yourself giving choice to students in the graphic organizers they would use?
I think that it's important to remember. So for those that are on, depending on what your subscription is, will depend on which ones are unlocked to you. But I do think that like I said, depending on what is your purpose, what are students needing to demonstrate their understanding of, right? And so depending on what they are trying to show you, I think choice is most certainly appropriate. I know education looks different all around, but sometimes we put kids in boxes and they're not able to show us what they know in the ways they feel most comfortable. And so with this tool, with the graphic organizers and unlocking the different modes, sometimes you need to just find out if a student has a understanding of, maybe writing is a struggle for them. Maybe you just want to hear if they understand the concept, and then we'll go to the next step of writing their understanding. And this is an age of my kids, my youngest daughter is 8. She can tell me all day what it is, a concept. If she's learned something, she can tell it. And I say, okay, well, let's write it down. And then she's like, oh no, here we go with writing. But to start it, think about using the audio or the video feature in Book Creator for brainstorming. There's a brainstorming graphic organizer template. What if they just got to brainstorm their characters in a story, just to videotape themselves? And then they got to take that video and then build on it and begin the writing process. The writing process, we essentially have innovated the writing process by now pulling in features of video and audio to start that. I remember just, writing down in a mind web. Well, that with this tool, we get a different way to be able to do that same task. Does that make sense, David?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really broadens the way you can approach all of the different processes, like teaching, writing. It's like I'm thinking you're bringing this up, and I'm thinking about my past experiences in writing class. It always started with start a mind map, write your outline, and go from there. And I mean, you're illustrating the exact point that a mind map and your outline could be me just doing this self dialogue with a camera, getting
Mm-hmm.
all my thoughts out there, and that you can transcript it. You can just
Yeah,
tell it to type all the words I just said, and then I
exactly.
have
And then
it.
you unpack what your ideas were.
Right. Because a lot of times, gosh, I mean, we're just chatting. I couldn't really tell you what I was just saying 5 minutes ago. We're just flowing, you know. And I want to bring this up too. John Smith, who, by the way, says hi. He messaged me while you were giving a presentation. Let's say hi. He's always saying, like, let the students, type with their face. They can just hit the text or the audio to type feature and have that roll out. And really made a great point that we speak a lot differently than we write. And you just made this point exactly. Your daughter throws the hands up when it says we have to write it down, but maybe having the students learn a little bit about what it looks like, what my speech looks like written out, and how that comparatively looks different. So even after having them write something out, next page, record yourself talking about it, look at the transcript. How are those two things different? There's your compare and contrast maybe. So I don't know. Now we're just spitballing. Now we're just talking
No,
EDU.
that's
This is
good.
good.
That's I think that there's something to say about, especially when you have reluctant writers. My daughter, she's an avid reader. She absolutely loves to read. She can tell you everything about Percy Jackson, but when it comes to having to write, that's when she just doesn't want to. And I actually use the audio recording feature, the voice to text, to, okay, tell me about, let's just talk about it. And then she see, and I said, well, that's a paragraph. Look at this part right here. Now, of course, like you said, we had to look through the parts in which didn't apply to what we needed, but she spoke a paragraph. And so the more you can get your students comfortable with the idea of the words that they are saying, they have value on paper as well in written form. And then, like you said, there's a teachable moment to then edit. Well, I don't really want it to sound that way, and pulling those things out, there's a place for it for sure.
Yeah. Well, and certainly they'll start to see that we do speak differently than we write, and
Correct.
you have to structure it differently, and they start to see those differences. Yeah, we have a few folks just chiming in saying they're really loving this for this discussion, and really the work around graphic organizers that you brought forward. And I really love you saying that. I'm going to share my screen just for a second. Oh gosh, you know what I didn't do? No, it did the screen wonk thing. So I wanted to show, you were speaking about literacy before.
Right.
I just wanted to bring this to folks' attention because I've realized recently you had brought up this teacher dashboard at the top and pointed out the apps section. But I want to stop before that and go to Discover and just let folks know that we have an entire section. Once you're logged into app.bookcreator.com, up here at the top, and if you're not in this section, you can just click on these three little lines in the top left, and you'll get to your libraries, and then you'll see the Discover tab. We have recently launched some really incredible books about foundational literacy. And Ijeoma, I know you've seen these.
Yes.
I know Newton County has checked these out. In fact, Newton County was one of the sort of beta testers for these. You guys sent back some feedback that was irreplaceable. So these are tried and true resources. But I want to pull these up for a couple of reasons. One, because this foundational literacy library is huge. We've got rhyming books now, as well as letters for all the English alphabet. And we're adding to this literacy library. But the reason I'm pulling this up is because these books are utilizing some of these same ideas with graphic organizers and the way we're at. Now, these are made for super young students. I think there's like K3, K2. But obviously these skills are applicable to everyone. Anyone who's below reading level after the third grade still needs foundational literacy skills brought to them, maybe in a little more creative way than we might have done it in second grade, but it's still important. So these are very applicable to everyone. But I just wanted to sort of point out that it does a really good application if someone were looking for an example of how one might use some graphic organizers. And there were a few, actually, I think it was the alphabet ones that were better than the rhyming ones. But utilizing this multimodal, add your recording here, add your text here, but also helping students make sense of their thinking and organizing their thinking in the graphic and visual way, and utilizing that graphical element. So I just wanted to point that out.
Those are great.
Super, oh God, where the screen won't. I couldn't find the stop share button. So I'm looking through the chat, just making sure there aren't any other questions. I'm going to share a link, like I had said, to your book. Is that okay that I share a link to the book?
Yeah.
That you, yeah, I'm going to put that in the chat. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Ijeoma, you especially, you are just a thrill to have on, and it's wonderful to hear from the perspective of someone who's with the students in the classroom and is bringing this forward. So I've shared that book there. If you're rewatching, you'll find it down in the comment section. And I bet you're getting messages from your colleagues congratulating you, and I can see some familiar names in the chat. So I love it. I love the smile. And if you're live, we'll also be sending you that link to that book tomorrow in a follow-up email. So we really appreciate everyone for joining us, whatever time it is from where you are. And please do reach out with questions or comments. And Ijeoma, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thanks.